Nobody tells you the real story of what happens after divorce. They talk about the paperwork, the lawyers, the custody battles, the financial collapse. But they don't talk about that moment you're sitting alone in a quiet apartment at 2 a.m., lights off, ceiling fan spinning, staring into space, and realizing you're 38, you're starting over. And somehow, everyone else seems to have their life together. They don't talk about the ghosts, the invisible ones, the ones that live in your playlists, the ones hiding in your kitchen drawers, the ones that show up when your new partner makes the same dish your ex used to love. It's time someone says this out loud. This is what really happens to men after divorce, especially after 35. 1. The emotional aftershock. You think signing the papers is freedom? It's not. It's just the beginning of a different kind of prison. Trauma doesn't end when the ink dries. It lingers in the nervous system. It embeds itself into memory, then rewires your perception of safety, touch, even joy. You may look fine on the outside, but your body is still bracing for impact. Hypervigilance becomes your default. Your heart jumps at small triggers, like a ringtone or a perfume in an elevator. I had a client tell me, 3 years after my divorce, I was watching my new girlfriend blow out her birthday candles, and boom, I was back at my ex's 30th. Same restaurant, same cake, same gut punch. That's how trauma works. It isn't logical, it's sensory. Flashbacks don't knock. They barge in, override your thinking brain, and pull you back into survival mode. That's the emotional aftershock. It's not loud, it's quiet, and it hits deeper because it bypasses thought and speaks directly to the body. 2. The psychological burnout. After divorce, your emotional architecture changes. You lose your innocence about love. The dopamine-driven, idealized version of connection is replaced with a more strategic, guarded lens. You're not imagining worst-case scenarios. Your nervous system is protecting you from what you've already lived through. This is called anticipatory defense. It's your brain's attempt to shield you from pain by assuming pain is always around the corner. You stop romanticizing. You start forecasting. You notice red flags early. That's a survival adaptation. It keeps you safe, but it costs you access to vulnerability, spontaneity, and emotional risk. And if you're a father? The fragmentation is deeper. One family ends, another begins. Your identity splits between dad of the past and dad of now. You carry emotional guilt for both. Even joy can be tainted with grief. 3. Living between two lives. You develop what psychologists call biographical dislocation. Your current relationship exists in a vacuum. Your new partner knows the updated version of you, but she doesn't know the original operating system. She sees how you respond, but not what those responses are rooted in. So when you pull back during conflict, she thinks you're shutting down. She doesn't know that you once argued for hours in a toxic loop, and pulling back now is your way of preventing chaos. You're constantly explaining yourself, translating your history, and because your new partner never saw who you used to be, she doesn't understand what you had to survive to become who you are. This results in an invisible loneliness, a psychological exile where even love feels foreign. 4. The weight of comparison. Your brain is a pattern machine, and patterns don't vanish after divorce. The comparison loop is your subconscious trying to find familiarity. It's the limbic system scanning for what was once safe, even if what was once safe was dysfunctional. The way your ex folded laundry, the smell of her shampoo, her laugh from the other room, all those neural associations don't disappear. They just lay dormant, waiting for a similar cue. When your new partner does something different, even something better, you still feel resistance. That's not rejection. That's neural dissonance. Your brain reaching for what it used to expect and finding something unfamiliar instead. You may intellectually know this is healthier, but emotionally, it feels wrong. That dissonance can sabotage new love if you don't recognize it for what it is. 5. The second time fatigue. The concept of novelty fatigue kicks in. You've been through the honeymoon, the firsts, the anniversaries. Now, you're repeating steps you once believed were one time only. So instead of excitement, you feel emotional detachment. You're watching a replay of a movie where you already know the ending. This isn't about your new partner lacking value. It's about emotional bandwidth. Your neurobiology has paired those rituals with an old partner. Re-anchoring them requires conscious work. You're not broken. You're just exhausted by repetition without meaning. 6. Hope versus cynicism. Cognitive dissonance. You crave intimacy, but fear exposure. So you overthink. You hesitate. You communicate less. You rely on logic where you used to rely on emotion. Your trauma brain keeps a ledger. How much do I give? How much do I protect? But here's the truth. Love is not a balance sheet. It's a leap. And after divorce, most men never leap again. They live half alive, half loving, half available. To truly connect, you must retrain your nervous system to feel safe in uncertainty. That's not a mindset. That's somatic work, emotional exposure therapy, vulnerability reps, and it begins with staying present when you want to pull away. 7. The age gap of experience. You're not just older, you're deeper. You've seen what it costs to build a life, and what it costs to watch one collapse. She's just starting, you're rebuilding. This mismatch creates unspoken tension. You find her optimism admirable, but naive. She finds your realism insightful, but heavy. This creates a subtle psychological mismatch. She dreams. You remember. She plans. You predict. To bridge this gap, you have to stop comparing perspectives and start integrating them. Not either or, but both. Hope with wisdom. Planning with realism. Love with boundaries. 8. Fatherhood and fury. Men process betrayal differently. When your ex uses your child as leverage, it activates a primal rage. Not the kind that yells, the kind that waits. You enter what psychologists call high-functioning anger. You show up, you check the boxes, you smile at school drop-off, you stay calm in court. But inside, you're a burning engine with no off switch. This chronic stress rewires your stress response system. You don't trust calm. You brace for impact even when it's peaceful. That's trauma-induced hyperarousal. And unless processed, it follows you into every relationship, parenting choice, and moment of stillness. 9. The rebuild. Pain becomes power. Healing is neuroplastic. Your brain can literally rewrite associations. That restaurant that once triggered anxiety, visit it again, but with someone who makes you feel safe. That park where your marriage collapsed, walk it again, but this time with presence instead of memory. This is called memory reconsolidation, when you overwrite old emotional experiences with new safe ones. It's not erasure, it's integration. Your nervous system learns we can feel joy here again. 10. From scar to strength. Eventually, your scars stop bleeding. They become architecture. You value peace because you've memorized chaos. You value depth because you've survived shallowness. You stop needing to be chosen. You start choosing, not out of fear, but out of awareness. And with that shift comes sovereignty. Closing. This is the second chapter. Divorce isn't a failure. It's a reintroduction to who you are, to what matters, to what you will no longer tolerate. You're not broken. You're becoming. Your next relationship, it's not a rebound. It's a reinvention. So here's my challenge. Stop surviving. Start sculpting. Because the man you're becoming, he's not a product of what happened to him. He's a product of what he chose next. Let that be you.